So we finished the development setup over the last lectures, fixed some bugs, but now we got a working setup, which is great. Now the next step is to work on the production workflow. In my package.json file, I want to have a second script. Let's name it build. And here I don't want to run the Webpack dev server, but Webpack. Now if I would run it like this, it would use the setup of the development workflow. We can actually do this to see the output because the development server did everything in memory. Now we can create the actual files by running npm run build. Everything except the start script has to be executed with npm run. Start is the exception with npm start. So npm run build will now run Webpack itself and take the same config file we worked with before, but now it gives us this dist folder where you now see the image file it copied and you see the JavaScript files here. You see the index file it copied where it also injected our import, and that is all the code we have. Now what you can see in this file already is it's not really optimized at all. This certainly isn't the code we want to ship, so I'll delete the dist folder for now. The goal instead is to have a dedicated workflow for production which does some optimizations. So what I'll do is I'll add a second config file, webpack.prod.config.js. Now it won't automatically take this file into account. We will have to point at it, but that's actually super simple. Now I'll copy the setup from the other file, from the development workflow, so that we can adjust it in the production workflow. Let's see what we need to adjust. Let's start at the top, the dev tool. Here I remove the eval to create more optimal source maps, which are less resource intensive. You can then always decide whether you want to deploy them or not, but it's nice to have source maps here too, to quickly find some bugs in the production workflow if there are any. Now the entry file still should be index.js, and the output also still makes sense as it is. Now the loaders. What about the loaders? Well, we want to apply the same transformations as in development, so we don't need to touch the loaders. We'll do our work in the plugin section. Now there we have a plugin for connecting the HTML file, and I want to keep that. What I want to do now is I also want to uglify my output. I want to optimize it. And that actually is a plugin that's built into Webpack. We don't need to install it. What I'll do is I'll simply import Webpack itself into that file. So Webpack via require Webpack. And then we can use one of the built-in plugins. So down in the plugin section here, I'll add this plugin. Here I'll add new Webpack, optimize, and there we have the uglify.js plugin. This plugin now also can be configured, and you can always check out the official GitHub pages of all these plugins and loaders to do so. I'll take the default setup though, so I'll remove that. And with that, I got my production workflow where I also optimize the files, where I minify them to ship as little code as possible. Now to use this configuration, I need to adjust my package.json, the build script here, where I point at Webpack. I don't want to use the default config, instead I want to use a special one. So I'll use --config, that's a flag we can pass to the Webpack script, and there I'll point to webpack.prod.config.js file. Since this is in the same folder as the package.json file, I don't need to specify any path, I can just specify the file name. With that, I'll also add some additional options, progress, profile, and colors to adjust the console output of the Webpack build workflow. And I will install one additional package with npm install --save dev. It's called rimwrath, and it allows us to delete a folder or files. And I want to delete the dist folder at the start of every build process so that we create a brand new one. So I'll execute rimwrath dist first, and then two signs to then run this project or this command here, after the deletion is done. With that, let's run build again, npm run build, and let's see if this gives us a nice output. It gives me an error because it should be -- profile here as a Webpack flag. So let's fix this, save the file, and rerun npm run build. And now with that, it's building the project. We can see it here. It should succeed, and it does. And it gives us the dist folder still, but if we have a look at the bundle file now, you see this is minified code. It's a lot of code because it includes the complete React library, but this is all minified and therefore optimized. And the same, of course, in our 0.js file. So now we got our dist folder, and this would be what we upload to a server, the content of the dist folder. This is now our own workflow, and I hope it became a bit clearer how Webpack works and how you can set up such a custom workflow.